Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to WVOX at Whitney Global Media Station. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to What Happened Here, and we are here every Wednesday at noon to 1 on 1460 on your AM dial or worldwide at WVOX.com. Today we will have a very special guest named Sharon Angel. Sharon is an author, best-selling author, and she is going to talk about some of the tough choices that people have to make in life. Sometimes they have to defy expectations to be who they are, who they want to be, and become the person that they see themselves as. And she has a process that can help with counteracting bullying, help confronting some real challenging issues. And she has an amazing story coming all the way from India to the United States. A lot of cultural pressures being a woman of Indian descent. And I look forward to talking with her about her journey and her book, the courage to identify who you are. She'll be joining us shortly. She will be taking questions. The phone number to call in is 914-636-0110. Again, that's 914-636-0110. And there's always a lot going on, as you can tell, from Mount Vernon to across the country. What happened here is going to examine these questions about what happened with, you know, the courage, and it takes a lot of courage, especially political courage, to confront some of the challenges that we face right now. Today, there's a big discussion going on Washington about gun control, and the stories from the survivors of in Uvalde are tremendous, moving. It's just excruciating to watch in many respects because you have so many examples of what needs to happen, but yet there's no action taken by those in Washington. And we hope that the stories of the struggles and how our young people overcame the attack by the crazy heinous attack by the I don't even want to say the shooter, let's just say the guy that literally lost his mind and conducted and executed just a terrible hateful act. It's without words, to hear the descriptions of the stories of survival, especially from the young student who had to cover themselves in their classmates' blood to disguise themselves so they didn't have to, suffer the same consequence. And by the grace of God, they survived. And I just, want to say that my heart goes out to all those impacted by gun violence, especially those in Uvalde. And I hope and pray that some kind of action happens. And it does feel different because I think everybody by this time has had enough. It's been over 20 years of shootings, over 3,500 plus people deceased as a result, kids at that, not necessarily even just adults. It's most of these people are young people at the beginning of their lives being cut down because of somebody with access to a military grade weapon. If it's one thing to have a gun and to have your right to bear arms, but it's another to have access to military grade weaponry that simply does not belong in the hands of people without stability in their lives. And that can be mental stability or any kind of real responsible behavior pattern that shows that they can be trusted with such a device. So I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that the people of Texas will push for real reforms on the local front, and I believe that it will result in real change on a national front because you don't mess with Texas, and that slogan means anything. I'm hoping that the people of Texas really stand up and say, Let's have more structure around these weapons that could seriously destroy lives, not just of innocent young children, but of those in law enforcement, like our police officers. There should be no reason why our officers should be outgunned by somebody that can go to Dick's Sporting Goods or their local sports store and buy a weapon that could cause such havoc and harm. And I just know that as the hearings proceed in Washington, I hope that those on both sides of the aisle hear and act on some of the recommendations that are being made. And I know New York took some steps recently to deal with limiting access to military grade weapons. It's a good thing for our military to have, but it's not a good thing for the person that seeks to cause harm in our community to have it. So I believe our guest is on the line, Sharon Angel. She is a amazing figure, someone that has published a book, The Courage to Identify Who You Are. After my heart, having read Jahumpa Lahiri's books over the years, someone that has demonstrated courage on her own to defy expectations of her cultural obligations growing up in India and accomplishing so much. She's joining us all the way from the West Coast in Los Angeles, where the sun is always shining. Sharon Angel, thank you for joining us here on WVOX.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm so happy to be here.
And when you agreed to be a part of this discussion, the timing is tremendous because there's so much happening from there's a crisis of a mental health crisis as we all know with respect to um, guns and hateful acts of violence. But when you dig down into some of the issues, and we can set aside the loonies that do these hateful acts, there are regular people that feel sick and shut in and isolated, and they don't know how to reconcile their feelings. They see themselves differently. They want to do something that may not be generally accepted by their family or their friends, and yet they're pressured from be it social or cultural obligations to do things that make them feel uncomfortable. How do you go about um, engaging that real question of who you are and the courage to identify?
That's a great question, and very much up to what is happening in our country today. It doesn't matter what background we're from, what culture we live in, whatever we believe. I think we all have some kind of bias that we have to face on a daily basis. There is, it's kind of clear that comes with that we are faced with when we think about the future, when we look at the news, when we hear a story. And I think the first thing, at least for me, what I have to do is face those fears instead of trying to shove it fear them like, oh, but that's not going to happen to me or that's not going to happen to me. We're setting ourselves in and not facing those fears.
So,
That's it.
so, so I just want to just jump in for 1 second. Your connection is a little, shaky. So you're coming in a little echoey, but I just want to translate what you said for those that are listening online and over the air. She's just Sharon is describing facing your fears, and as you face these different biases and face your fears. You have to have that courage to first face your fear, and that's where I look forward to going deeper with her. But before we go into that question, I definitely want you, Sharon, if you can share a little bit about your background and how you came to write this book. I think that's important for people to know who is Sharon Angel because she definitely is bringing a voice to the voiceless that are making some tough life decisions.
Absolutely. I want to make sure there's a connection better now.
We're gonna keep working on the connection, but we got you. We hear you.
My background, I come from my Indian heritage. My parents, grandparents are all missionaries, Christian missionaries. So I definitely grew up with a Christian faith and now have navigated to that faith on my own according to my belief systems and value system. We grew up in front of the camera hosting several television shows and that has been my passion to use media, use digital platforms to share my message of identity, how we can have our own value systems and belief systems, and still function as a society, freedom and in unity.
That's amazing. So you were doing missionary work in India growing up. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like where in India were you? Did you grow up?
I grew up in the South. I grew up in a city just like LA where we used to live close to the beach. Sunny all the time, absolutely beautiful and coastal.
Is that Goa?
It is tonight.
Chennai, nice. Well, listen, hold that thought. We're gonna bring you back. Don't change that dial. You listen to what happened here. Oh, you guys don't change that dial. Hang on, hang on, hang on. I'm coming right back. You gonna call it back? All right. And for those watching online, hopefully you guys can hear her. We're gonna try her back and try and see if we can get a better connection on the next line. So hopefully we resolve that sound issue because she has something to say. We want to make sure you hear it.
This is WVOX.
I'm Susan Lee, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Forget about any relief at the gas pumps, the price climbing to a new record high. AAA reports the national average for a gallon of regular is up to $4.95. Spirit Airlines postponing a shareholder vote on whether to accept a buyout offer from Frontier Airlines or JetBlue. The carriers are in a heated bidding war to acquire the low-cost airline. JetBlue sweetened
You
its
got it?
offer, upping a breakup.
Is it better connection now? Okay. All right. Can you ask her if she's on speakerphone or okay? Because that might be doing it.
Past 12 months, Insider reports Roku employees think Netflix will swoop in to take advantage of the lower price. One desired purchase by the streaming giant is certain, Netflix placing a bid to buy a portion of a former New Jersey Army base for a new production studio. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Steve Rappaport in...
Okay. So, but it's clear.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Big news! Greta Van Susteren is back. She's the host of Newsmax's new show, The Record with Greta Van Susteren. Starting June 14th, Greta reports on the really big stories you need to know. She's smart, tough, and
How you doing out there? Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining.
747. Millions are making the switch to Newsmax. Find it on all major cable systems and streaming platforms. Don't miss this. Text Greta to 39747 now. Texting enrolls for automated text messages. Message and data may apply. Business owners, proprietors, and savvy managers who really know the county know that WVOX is now more than ever a smart, effective, and economical way to reach homeowners, doers, and activists in Westchester and the Bronx. To broadcast your theme or unique message, call Judy Fremont or David O'Shaughnessy to inquire about our reasonable, affordable, local advertising rates.
Hello,
Established
everybody.
with the O'Shaughnessy family, which considers VOX
Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. I know it's
dedicated to it. Call Judy or David
in commercial break. We're talking to Sharon Angel. Sharon is an author and motivational speaker, someone who has a lot of inspiration off the show. Looking forward to having this conversation. Here we go.
Here with Rich Thomas, the former mayor of Mount Vernon, on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to WVOX, a Whitney Global Media station. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to What Happened Here, and the question we are exploring today is the courage to identify who you are. And our special guest is Sharon Angel, author, podcast host, show host. She has a lot to offer. She's been talking about how she made it from all the way across from over in the eastern part of the world to the United States with her message of having the courage to be who you are. Call in at 636-0110 with questions. Before we jump into the book, we're going to hear from Sharon discuss a little bit about, her journey. She was telling us before we went to break that she grew up in India. Her family were missionaries, and she was doing missionary work in the South. And now that experience kind of prepped her to confront some of the fears that we all hear about and face from those that are in being bullied to those that are bullies. They have their own demons and fears of being nice, and which is why they bully people or they take out their frustrations on people that they victimize. And nonetheless, Sharon has discovered a process and a structure to deal with these issues and help people overcome their fears to have the courage to identify. So Sharon, before we went to break, I know we were just touching upon the type of work you were doing. Can you just tell us briefly about that missionary work and then, your media rise, and then the decision you made when you were at the top of your game, the top of your career, you said, you know what, I gotta level up myself, and then bring this message to millions of people across the world to have the same courage to be who you are.
Absolutely. So I was in India. I started being in front of the camera when I was 10 years old, and I started hosting television shows for kids. It was mostly singing and pitching to other segments which were about biblical values.
Wow.
My parents were missionaries, so they had huge conferences, huge events, my grandparents as well, and to those events about 100,000 to anywhere between 400,000 people would show up.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and these would happen outside the cities where forests and big areas would be cleared out to host those events because the city doesn't have that much space to hold that many people.
Right.
And they all came to hear, who is this Jesus? What can he do? What can he give me? What can he bring to me? And these were not necessarily just Christians, but also people who had nothing to do with the religion, with Jesus. All they knew was these people will pray and Jesus will do something for us. So I was part of that, involved in many field events where I went to do humanitarian work, whether giving school kits to little children, supplying food, new clothes, and so on. But something inside me when I was 17 to 20, my early 20s, something inside me said, yeah, that's all great, that's all wonderful, but are you refined inside? Are you being who you are, genuinely true to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And that question kind of haunted me. There's so much good that I'm doing on paper, in front of the camera, to the people, which I really like doing. But you can't give from a half full glass or an empty glass. And that was my initiation, or that was the beginning to go on a journey to really find myself. What do I believe? Where is my faith? What do I like? What do I dislike? And really ask the question, who am I? And find the answers to that.
And for those that are questioning, like, what's the big deal? Some people in the United States, they're not aware of some of the obligations that come with your heritage and culture coming from India. There are expectations for women to have arranged marriages or have their lives determined by their parents. I mean, it's a huge challenge and burden, especially knowing that you have this faith that's teaching one thing, but yet there's a cultural part that says something completely opposite. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. The Christian religion, teaches us freedom. It says God gives you the freedom to be who you are. He gives you dreams and desires. But then culturally, or in my daily life, I wasn't seeing that freedom or practicing that freedom for myself. Early 20s, I was set up for an arranged marriage by my parents, by my family, because that's the age that the conversation starts. Hey, when are you getting married? Who are you getting married to? And I saw that while I was in that process, it was all about the caste system. How much money do you have? What is your family heritage? The class system, the dowry system, all of that was discussed. But the relationship between two people, how are they going to start a life? What are they going to do with life? Those things were not discussed as much. And it left a bitter taste in my mouth to see it's the material things that take precedence over the life of a person. So I did not want to be a part of that system and play into that especially when I carry a message of freedom, when I want to practice freedom for myself and allow that for others. I did not want to cling to that system just because everybody else was. So I said no to an arranged marriage because I did not want to be participating in the caste system, in the dowry system, in the class system, the colorism, and so on.
Well, look, everybody, this is a big step forward in being courageous to, say you're going to do and be who you are despite your cultural and family obligations. We're going to pick this up when we come back from break. Don't change that dial. Listen to WVOX, your Whitney Global Media Station. Hey, everybody. It's a heavy topic. I can tell you that it's very serious to have these obligations, and be it Pride Month. A lot of people are expected to be a certain way, and this is a different aspect of the spectrum of Pride, but it definitely deals with the same structural issues in the LGBTQ plus community. So I just want to make sure you all know that we getting into it. Man, that was loud. So I hope y'all all having a great week, getting ready for a great weekend. We got a lot to do, a lot to discuss. We're almost gonna jump into the book, and I'm gonna see. Let me see if I can invite her on to join us on IG Live. Let's see if I can get Sharon Angel. No, I don't see Sharon Angel. Oh, there she is. Well, here we go. You got any questions you want to talk about Mount Vernon? I know that some folks earlier we were talking about it when I was on air earlier this morning. There are flash floods being forecast for the rest of this week. There was news of flooding in Mount Vernon, homeowners being flooded out in areas that are not flood zones, and this just goes to show you that our infrastructure not only needs to be repaired, but we need to know what happened to the monies that were allocated to maintain the system over the years. And while we are ignored on that, we still need action by City Hall to fix and stop this flooding that's turning regular streets into rivers in a matter of minutes. It's just straight ridiculous that Mount Vernon pays amongst the highest taxes in the county, and yet we can't have a serious conversation about solving a very simple problem. When it rains, the water should go into the system and out, and out. That's it, not out into the street and flooding homes and basements of people that spent thousands of dollars following Ida. So I just know that it's something that we need to address, and I look forward to addressing it through a combination of approaches over the coming weeks and months. So interpret that how you mean, but however you want. But I'm telling you that there needs to be action on our infrastructure in a very strategic way. And right now, I don't see it happening. I see it happening in secrecy, and that's a problem. Trying to figure out why is Fox News so obsessed with um, McConaughey. I mean, like he made a great plea. I can't hear or see what they're saying about his emotional plea, but I hope they're treating it with respect and dignity. And I hope Fox, definitely takes a different position on this issue and just say, you know what, let's make some adjustments, because for years they've been saying thoughts and prayers, but the thoughts and prayers, the prayer is action. You know, action will answer the prayer. So let's get some action and do something. I think that's what needs to happen. So here we go. We're coming back from break.
On 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to the WVOX, a Whitney Global Media Station. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to What Happened Here. And today we are examining what happened here with the courage to identify who you are. Our special guest is Sharon Angel. Sharon is an author, a podcast host, a show host, someone that has a lot to offer, a structure and a story that is so inspirational. We hope that you take some lessons learned in her life and her journey to have the courage to be who you are. You can call in with questions at 914-636-0110, 914-636-0110. And or right before break, Sharon was sharing with us. Say that 10 times fast. Sharon was sharing with us, her decision to break away from the cultural implications of a dowry system, a class system, a caste system, something that was so focused on materialism, not necessarily the mental, physical, spiritual connection between two people. And she decided that she was going to be who she wanted to be, an independent woman. Her story, has roots all the way back to like the 13th century in the Canterbury Tales, where a story is told about what do women really want. And the truth is, women really want the right to choose who they want to be, want to have their independence. And when you think about the context of where we are today, at the brink of Roe v. Wade being reversed, you think about how all these civil liberties and rights are being, are under attack. You need something to help you have that additional courage to face your fears and be who you are. And right now on the line, we have Sharon Angel, someone that has a powerful message of finding that courage, facing your fears. And she's going to tell us what it took to get it done. Sharon?
Yeah.
Right after you said no and yes to yourself, what's that process? Can you lay out to everybody a little bit about what's in your book and that process that you went through to say no and yes to yourself?
I wish I can say that it was easy, that it was fun, and, I was super happy immediately, but that was kind of the beginning to saying many more no's, and it was difficult, it was tough. I think the biggest thing is, for me, I was standing against this institution of this is how things have been done. Why is this girl coming in saying no? Why is she challenging the system? Why is she challenging something that's been done for ages? So the biggest thing for me is making sure the relationships around me, whether it's my parents or friends or the circle that I carried, I wanted to know for myself that they understood and they support me.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeking for that support, thank God. After many, many, many conversations with my parents and with my friends, I could say that I am able to keep that relationship, that friendship strong, even though there are give and takes, even though we have our little arguments here and there. I'm able to say that I was able to keep those bonds strong. And I think that's the biggest thing. When we as women, as female persons, are challenging a system or saying no to something, we also have to be ready to take on the consequences that come with that. Be responsible to say, I made this decision, I am choosing to say no, or I am choosing to say yes. So I am well aware of whatever happens with those yeses and nos.
And as you get to yes, as you get beyond no, and you say, each incremental step that you took to say no to a caste system, an arranged marriage, having to face the pressure from be it your parents or your friends, and then say, you know what, I'm gonna follow my faith in myself and say yes to being who I want to be. Can you tell about that journey? Like, not every one of your siblings or friends were with you. You had to kind of reset everything. So it was one step at a time, and but you knew somewhere deep down that you wanted to evolve and move from India to the United States, and talk about, having courage, because that's a huge step. I mean, you went to a completely different continent to bring your message of courage and defying expectations to be who you are, um, knowing it's not easy. I'm curious about, how were you able to, you know, get support? How about that? Basic support is I think a very fundamental question, because people don't realize that, you know, if you're supported by a job, or you're supported by, let's say, your family, once that's taken away, you have to start over. So can you talk about starting over?
Yeah, absolutely. I think growing up in India, I was there till I was 17. I did one semester of college in India, and as everybody knows, Indians typically are doctors, engineers, lawyers, accountants. And that's how we are raised culturally in the country to become successful. That's what it looks like. But the reason I moved to Canada first and then to the US is my dad. He was the one who opened that door for me. The ministry was expanding. We had many opportunities. So we as a family had to move. And I initially didn't question that move. I was like, okay, my family members are saying that we need to move. Okay, let's move. But the transition was difficult because I didn't know what it meant for me, for my life. And when I started questioning that, I started questioning that move is when my identity started to form and illnesses started to take shape. So coming from a life of, coming from a culture of you have to be a doctor, engineer, my dad asked me one question: what do you want to do? What do you want to study? And that is the first step towards finding my freedom and being who I should be. So I so I told him I want to study more technical things in media, what it means to produce video, produce television. I wanted to study that, so I did my bachelor's in media. I did my graduate degree in film and cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
So many documentaries. Worked as a television producer and broadcast network, and all of those things were the start to find my identity in my career. Until then, I was memorizing scripts, I was on camera, I was saying things, I was doing things, but it was all dictated and almost like a puppet saying things because it was on paper. But now, after getting that formal education and really knowing the message that I wanted to share, I was able to deliver that in confidence and kindness with grace, and also speak to an audience who are going through the same issues as I am. So that definitely was relatable and resonated with so many people. And at the end of the day, when I went to bed, I had a peace. I had a satisfaction that what I'm doing, it has meaning behind it. And I think that's the biggest thing that we all crave.
So education became the great equalizer, and your father basically said, daughter, I'm going to support you." And that's true. That's traditionally uncommon. So for everybody that's not familiar with Indian culture, the expectation is for the daughter to be a part of an arranged marriage, and the father is typically the one that's supposed to be driving this. But to hear, the complete opposite, a rejection of that cultural connection, to have the courage to do something different and allow, you know, independence to flourish is a truly amazing story. We're going to wrap right now for a quick commercial break. We're going to come back and talk about the book and the podcast and the show. Don't change that dial. Listen to WVOX about the courage to identify. Hey, everybody. I hope you're finding this show interesting. It's a very important topic. A lot of people take for granted the the freedom to choose. And here's a story of a young person who um, went through a variety of cultural challenges to arrive at having the courage to be independent and to explore and live a life that she imagined, not necessarily the one that's being thrust upon her. So I hope you take a look at her book, The Courage to Identify by Sharon Angel. We're going to pick up after this quick commercial break, and I look forward to getting your questions and your insight. But nonetheless, I just wanted to turn that down over there because that gets kind of loud. But I do know that um, we're talking about earlier gun violence and gun violence in Washington being debated right now. A lot. It's simple. I think that the time is now. Enough is enough. I'm hoping that this go around we get some action from our members of Congress. And I'm doing all right. How you doing? We outside. So all I can say, we outside. And make sure you drop me a line, drop me a DM, so I can properly catch up. And I got a bunch of people I got to catch up with that've been reaching out. Um, I do D-Tech. D-Tech, he appears on WVIP radio, has a great following, great story, lots of energy, lots of fun. I got to make sure, y'all follow D-Tech, but also I gotta get with him. That's my dude right there. And for those that are watching online, I just want to bring up I want to bring up the book online on Amazon. You can see has some great details, 150 pages worth of great information. You got 5-star ratings, um, and she's in a category, with some great other authors. And I just want to, this right here is a great review, and how she gave up her celebrity in front of a billion people. Think about that. She gave up her celebrity in front of a billion people to basically say, I want to be independent and I want to be, who I am. And she has, demonstrated her dedication to being courageous. So I just want to, you know, encourage you all to take a look at her book and make sure y'all go get a copy. The Courage of Who You Are. The Courage to Identify Who You Are. Excuse me. And this is her website. Take a look. She got the podcast action going on. She has it all together, y'all. So y'all make sure you check out SharonAngel.com. I'm gonna put it here in the comment section. BMW. Dot.
Oh, my name is Daisy. Call that is it's not Fox Popular, the voice of the people.
All right, we're about to come back from break. So here we go.
What? Here with Rich Thomas, the former mayor of Mount Vernon, on 1460 WVOX.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to WVOX at Whitney Global Media Station. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. The name of our show is What Happened Here? And the question we are examining and exploring is courage. The courage to identify and be who you are, the courage to defy expectations. And with us is a special guest. Her name is Sharon Angel. Sharon has an amazing story going from India to Canada to the United States. And she has basically written a book, The Courage to Identify Who You Are. It's available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. She has a podcast, The Courage to Identify. She's a show host, Random Thoughts. And you can find out more about her on SharonAngel.com. But if you want to call in with any last minute questions, the phone number to call in is 914-636-0110. Again, it's 914-636-0110. Now, before we went to break, Sharon was telling us about how she put aside her celebrity of being in front of 1.3 billion people, and her dad defied expectations, defied cultural norms, and said, "Daughter, do your thing. Go pursue your dreams. Go be who you are." Open the door for her to discover herself and who she really wants to be, and channel that inner voice, that inner person that she felt she needed to become. And she was telling us about how she got into media and then the book. So, Sharon, can you tell us about the book? You decided someday to say, you know what? I got to tell everybody about this journey and the courage. Can you tell us about the book, some of the chapters in the book, and what's your ultimate? Don't tell us the ultimate conclusion because people got to buy the book, but just give us an overview.
Sure. So the book is my journey of how my background of what I was doing back in India, and then how I faced pressures, peer pressures, and how I dealt with them on a daily basis. So I talk about relationships, I talk about friendships, I talk about career, I talk about money decisions, which were not taught. I share a little bit about my bullying online, and how I had to overcome that. And a lot of the religion and cultural expectations that people enforce because they think that's the way it has to be done. And the biggest lesson I have learned to say that religion is something that is enforced by people, but is God that way? Does God want you to do that? Asking those questions and figuring that out, and also culturally to say this is what you must do, this is the mold for a young single female, and kind of breaking away from that mold. So what does it look like? Basically taking my readers, taking a journey through what are my yeses, what are my nos, how do I navigate with that, with broken friendships and broken relationships, how do I take the responsibility and the consequences, and how do I meet them with courage? I think that is the biggest thing that we need today, courage and bravery, the tenacity to take on things of life and be able to deal with them with grace, with patience, and with wisdom.
But some people find it easier to go along to get along, and they just suffer. Can you talk about, the success? You went through the suffering, you went through the rejection, you went through the pain of losing relationships. And now, you're at this point in your life where you look back at that suffering and you say, yes, I'm happy to have gone through this because you can now have peace in your life. You can now have perspective. You can now enjoy the time that we all have and share and should really treasure. This time is really a gift. But can you talk about that transition? You mentioned it about consequences. Some people, they hear that word and they don't fully understand, but it does carry some kind of suffering when you lose the support. Can you tell us about after that, the success that you've reached, not necessarily monetarily, but just personally, spiritually? Can you talk about that so our listeners can know, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that there is something greater that they will feel fulfilled from by having the courage to identify and go through this tough process.
Yeah, I can tell you that it's scary to want to go on that journey to say, I want to figure out myself. I want to have this life that I dream of. I think it is scary for most people to break away from a certain mold. But for me, it was more scary to stay in that mold. I was so fearful. I battled anemia and anorexia because I was in that mold, because I was in that place. And that was more scary because I thought I would lose everything that I had. And that was a bigger risk for me to stay in a void and in a life of, I don't know what my future looks like. So I was ready to take on that battle of, let me see what happens. Let me see, even if I fail, even if I fall, let me see what happens. And that little decision to go on that journey, to want to go on that journey, is what gave me the courage. Even if my family disowns me or treats me as outcast, if people say no to me, if I lose all my friendship, I thought it would be worth to go on that journey because I knew that if I went on this discovery, if I kind of satisfied this curiosity to say what is at the end of what is on the other side, then I would reach a life of freedom, of peace, of clarity that I was looking for. And it definitely took many years, many tries, many months, many circumstances. But today, I can say that I can express myself well. I am more confident. I am more at peace, and I'm more free in many ways. Even though it's not perfect, perfection is not what I was going for. There's so many imperfect parts to my life. But
What do you mean? What do you mean you're not perfect? I'm joking. I'm joking. I was gonna say, what do you mean you're not perfect?
good kind of perfect, but no, and I think we have to be okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Media shows us and tells us, in many ways, religion and culture kind of demand us to be perfect beings, but that's just the standard that we can't reach as humans. As long as we are living, breathing humans, I don't think we can reach that. And it's okay. I think it's giving ourselves that grace to say, I'm failing today, I'm falling today, but tomorrow will be better, tomorrow will be greater, tomorrow will be lighter. And that's how we get through life.
So in the courage to identify everyone, you look at it, you look at the challenge, you look at that void and know that while it looks like you can't jump across it, internally speaking, not necessarily want you to go to the Grand Canyon and try and jump across, but internally, you can, cross that cavern. You can find that energy, that faith to confront your fears and say, I'm going to make this very significant change. It will hurt. It will be a challenge. It will come with consequences, from personal consequences that you hear Sharon talk about with her struggle that she overcame with anemia and anorexia, to dealing with family rejection or friends. It's really a huge undertaking to say you are going to be you, and you're going to not give two F's about it because you want to have a life that you can enjoy and give back, to the community in which you want to be a part. So Sharon, as we wrap up in the final minutes of the show, your journey from India to Canada, having the support of your father, a big surprise, I know, to many that are very familiar with the Indian culture and tradition, to pursue your dreams and become who you are now. Can you tell everybody a little bit about, one, where they can find your book, where they can find you? I see you talk about different topics about surrogacy and pregnancy. You talk about freedom for women and right to choose. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the other stuff you're working on? Actually, you know what? Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but Sharon, I look forward to having you back again to talk on air. Can we do that in the coming months? Many thanks. SharonAngel.com, everybody. Looking forward to you all learning and discovering the courage to identify. Make sure you find it on SharonAngel.com, Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble. Go get it right now. Thank you, Sharon, so much for your time.